WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We all love and obsess over these apps. But has it ever bothered you that these services are absolutely free? They cost nothing. And you know what they say, when a product is free, you are the product. That's right, you and I. Our data is the way these companies monetize their platforms. Welcome to FYI. In yesterday's episode, we established that the phones never sleep, it's always listening to you. And today in part 2 of our series on how safe is your phone, we look at apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and the part they play in our lives. But you might also have wondered, like we said, on what exactly is the way they make their money? How deep is data mining? Do we have no control over what these companies extract from our phones? Is data privacy simply a myth now? Well, we'll be taking that up for discussion with all our cybersecurity experts joining us today. But first up, let's go across to Rubina, who's here to educate us on the business models of these companies. Listen in very carefully.
Yes, Sonal, the adage that you just said absolutely is true. Facebook, which has over 2 million users, 2 billion users actually, does not charge you a single penny. It is a key for users to realize that the highly addictive user experience of social platforms is designed to build stickiness. The higher the stickiness or the amount of time you spend on the platform directly translates to better data metrics for the platform that are then used to make for the money platform. With over 2 billion users on the platform, as I said, Facebook doesn't charge a single penny from users to be on the platform. Both Facebook and Instagram, however, track exactly what you do on the app. This includes creating and maintaining a profile of your likes, dislikes, interests, hobbies, religion, and much more. Yes, it can even include your entire address book. This data is then offered to marketers who can run ads that are tuned specially to cater to specific interests and audiences. Facebook claims that it doesn't sell any data that it gathers on you and that it is likely to be true. Facebook's true business model isn't a social platform. In fact, it is the data it has on you, and that data is worth a fortune. It is in Facebook's best interest to maintain a tight hold on that data. Instagram too operates on a similar model by capturing data on your likes, follows, and interactions. Instagram knows exactly the kind of products you are interested in. Ever started getting ads for fashion brands when you followed a designer on Instagram? I know I have. That's Instagram marketing and data collection at play. Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion in 2012, but today it is worth well over $1 billion and makes greater revenue than Facebook itself. And what about WhatsApp? Well, so far, Facebook hasn't monetized the chat platform, but it is trying to do it through business profiles. At the moment, the WhatsApp for Business API is the primary source of revenue. This integrates into websites and services, lets businesses reach out directly to customers through WhatsApp. Twitter is another example of a social media company where the user is the data. More specifically, user interest. Like Facebook and Instagram, Twitter too creates a user profile model and then uses that data to offer better targeting for ads and promoted tweets. Now, all the social media companies claim that they don't sell user data, and being the core of their business, that is likely true. However, there really is no way for someone to use these platforms without giving away complete access. So if you're paranoid about privacy, your best bet would be entirely cut yourself off social media platforms, no matter how hard that might seem in today's connected world. Sonal.
All right, if you're concerned about your data at all, just disconnect from these platforms altogether. I mean, how sad is that that's the only option available to us at this point. Thanks, Rubina, for joining us with that update. Let's take it forward to our guests this morning. We've got Jitin Jain, Pawan Duggal, Kazim Rizvi, Amit Dubey. Jitin, to you first. Firstly, after yesterday's episode, so many queries have come in about just how worried people are about their data privacy. But perhaps not the first time this has happened. Jitin, just to stick to today's issue that we've just spoken about, how exactly does data mining work? We looked at a couple of apps there, but you and I were discussing an app like Cam Scanner. Extremely popular, extremely handy and useful. at a time when digi-lockers are said to be the trend forward. That's the only way you make a digi-locker. You scan your personal data. These are your Aadhaar card numbers, your PAN cards, driving license, all your certificates so far, everything, and you lock it up. Now, there have been reports as well that CamScanner might be compromised and they might actually be selling this data. How does that really work?
So, first the CamScanner. So, it became an extremely popular app in last 5 years because you could like simply click a photo of any document, it'll automatically crop, it'll make it into a beautiful PDF, and everybody, from defense, law enforcement, business people, private citizens are using it. And last year we, suddenly heard from Google that they were throwing CamScanner out of Google Play Store because they found a malware in the CamScanner. Now later on, CamScanner obviously gave an excuse that, it was not us, but the third parties which were using, which was infected and stuff. But you see, CamScanner had access to your gallery, they had access to your storage, and in a way they could have picked up all the documents you scanned. Once you have picked up all the documents which were scanned, it is very easy to read those documents using AI and, basically turn to engine. So you could glean a lot of intelligence out of it. You could, profile documents, you could profile people, you could do, and you may not sell. You could have simply given it to an intelligence agency because they were operating out of China. So there are many uses. Not every time data is sold.
Hold on. I'm just trying to understand, what do they do with our data?
So, they could have been selling it to an intelligence agency in China. They could have been selling it to third-party companies for profiling and stuff. So you could do anything, but it depends what sort of data you have. So normally, if you look at applications like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, which you said, they pick up your profile information, they pick up the content you upload, they pick up your screen time, which part of screen you are browsing. They have cookies which tracks of what are the other websites you are visiting. They track your audio when you give a voice command. They track your friends, the conversations, and it is basically, they say that we want to profile you to an extent and to the precision that we are able to show you exactly the right ads you would want and exactly the right things you might end up buying. So that is how the ecosystem works. That is how they say they make money.
And
but the problem is,
at this point, Pawan Duggal, is there no check that can be imposed on these applications?
Technically and legally, yes. Check can be imposed on these applications, but for that, you require political will. Unfortunately, political will has been strongly missing in this regard. I don't know for whatever reason, but India has been actually treating these intermediaries and app developers and app service providers on a golden pallet. I think that's a wrong approach. At the end of the day, the government has the power under Section 79 and Section 87 of the Information Technology Act 2000 to come up with rules and regulations specifically stipulating what all checks these kinds of app services and app service providers have to put in place so as to ensure that the personal data and the sensitive personal
Pawan,
data.
Is there no international law governing all of this? See, the governments are going to change in every country. They'll have a cycle as well. So, is there no international standard that has to be followed?
Unfortunately, at the time when we talk, there is no one international cyber law or international gold standard to follow. 2015 at the WSIS Forum in Geneva, I had come up with the idea of an international convention on cyber law and cyber security. But I quickly found that states were not willing to bite the bullet logically because they're all doing both covert and overt activities. And no state wants itself to be named and shamed on the international scenario. So that's why the states want this status quo of a vacuum of international policy and cyber law to keep on getting perpetuated so that they can keep on doing their illegal or legal activities.
All right.
Having they said that, countries are saying, look, I'm not waiting for this vacuum of policy approaches at the international level to be filled up. I'm coming up with my own national legislative frameworks or laws so as to regulate this. So clearly, in India, you have the Information Technology Act. The government can mandate these app service providers and app platforms to ensure what they have to fulfill. However, most of these app platforms are only keen to get the cream out of the Indian market, to get money out of India, but they don't want to be seen to be compliant.
Hold that thought, Pawan Duggal. I want to come back to it. Amit Dubey, at this point, I just want to educate our viewers at this point a little more about what these apps are doing with our information. In our show yesterday, we did talk about how now Apple says they all stand for privacy at this point every time. So I have a conversation with you over WhatsApp. There'll be a orange light that pops up. It's now telling me that the app is listening to me. What is WhatsApp doing with that information and with that recording of your and my call?
Actually, our challenge is not limited to Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp. There are on an average 70 plus apps in your mobile phone. And all these apps are collecting data. Some of them are actually collecting more information than Facebook and Instagram.
On one phone?
On one phone. And they all collect data. And some of them are actually collecting more information than your Facebook and WhatsApp. And I'll just share with you one of my experience. I was just talking to a company in Germany and they sell data. You can just search on Google, the company those are selling this data. And I was having a video chat with their CTO and I requested them, if I give you a location like North Avenue and a parameter like 2 kilometers, how much information can you give me of those people that are living in that region? And the information that he was giving me was really shocking. He said, I can give you last 2 years of continuous location, of course. Second, their call records, to whom they called and everything. Third, their payment records, what payment they made, what they purchased and everything, that thing. And fourth, the users of other applications, if they are using any particular other application for a particular duration. So, and if you keep on asking him these PI data and all other information, they were able to give us.
Did you ask them one question? Have you obtained these legally?
No. So they gave me the process. How do they obtain? They said that we have probes, we have SDKs, and these SDKs are offered to these application developers. These applications are free.
Just for the benefit of our viewers, talk about what these SDKs are. What does it mean?
Yes, it is called Standard Development Kit, and these are data probes. So there are three players in this entire business model. One, those are developing applications and offering free to you. But how do they make money? So there are mediators. They ask these applications developers that please integrate our SDK to your application. And then based on number of users you have, active users, we will pay you. So on an average, if you have 100,000 users, you will get $2,000 per month. If you have 100,000 active users on your applications, you will be given $2,000 per month from these SDKs. This is a minimum data cost that you can generate through it. And then there is lots of AI. So once this data will be processed through AI, the value of this data becomes high. And then it can be profiled and can be sold to much more strategic players like nations and the investigation agencies and all other players. Because they are able to profile you to that extent, they are able to give me your email ID, your mobile phone number, your IMEI, your everything. And I have sample data with me. And I was discussing with my other such law enforcement officers. And I said, see, they have an Indian office as well. So I shared that address details with them that can you please inquire how are actually they monetizing it in India, because it is illegal. Most of this information that they are showing me and giving me as a sample, it is really shocking. And that too, if I give them a location
Kazim Rizvi, when somebody hears this, somebody who's just been making TikTok videos, just chatting up with family on WhatsApp, updating, keeping, braced up with news on Twitter, just connecting with people on Facebook. In middle of that, then they hear a conversation like this, that there are three bodies. There is a place which is contracting your data. Then there is a market space which is collecting it and AI is able to compartmentalize it. And then there is a third where you are actually selling it. At a time like this, you come from a think tank which is working on intersection of technology and public policy. I find it quite baffling that there is no one international body that is actually talking about this, has laid down ground rules on this.
Thank you so much for having me today. So I think it's very important for us to understand that privacy is probably becoming the most important discussion going forward. And it's very crucial for us to understand.
And we're already late. It's happened, it's gone.
So there is no international body when we talk about privacy, but countries globally are looking at privacy. You have the GDPR, which the EU has passed a couple of years ago. There is a data protection bill in the parliament, which the government of India has introduced last year. So yes, the rise of the economy is going quite fast, and users have to catch up. Society is trying to catch up in terms of protecting the data of citizens. So on one hand, you need legislation, you need laws, you need come forward. You need bilateral discussion to take place on safeguarding privacy. At the same time, you also need to sensitize users to be more hygienic on their phones, to use platforms which are secure, with encrypted software. With COVID, a lot of us are.
Kazim, your audio line is a little scratchy. I'll just ask them to check that up one for you and I'll come back to you. Pavan Duggal, if I ask Amit, he can give me a full list of people who are actually taking and buying this data online. Today, can I hold my government, can I get this list out in the public domain, go to the court and see the government is buying this data? And it can be put an end to. Can that be done? Is that legally possible? Is there a law for it?
Well, there is no law for it. Currently, India does not have a personal data protection law. We also don't have a general data protection law because the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 is currently pending before the Indian Parliament. So as of now, the only stuff that you can rely upon are certain cosmetic provisions of Section 43 and 43A of the Information Technology Act. But you can only go ahead at best and seek some damages against people who've gone and monetize your data. But for that, you have to quickly remember that the law of torts in the country is very poorly developed. We hardly get damages in the country. And therefore, this experiment
Well, that's simply not enough. That's simply not
Clearly,
enough.
that's not
I
enough.
mean, baseline is that, Jitin, we've been looking at a lot of documentaries have been out as well. Social Dilemma, if I can just quote it, absolutely brilliantly done. Everybody's talking about it right now as well. It actually profiles a lot of former employees of these companies who have seen, whose conscience did not allow them to do this anymore, and then they quit. And they've put their side of the story to the world as well. Where do you see this going? Within the circle where you are, where is this conversation going?
Look, Sonam, there are three sort of players in the market. One is this, famous companies, what we spoke about, who have got enough money and their only business is to harvest data and sell ads. Now, because they have money, they will go to all extent to ensure that users spend maximum time on their apps and they are able to do the maximum profiling to give the most precise ads. Now, second are the players who are state-sponsored players like TikTok, WeChat, whose only business is to ensure that you may share less time, but you share maximum data on those apps and you keep maximum data on your phone so that they are able to harvest the data and sell it back to the agencies back at home. Now, third are the players who use such apps to commit frauds, use here all this Aadhaar, OTP frauds and stuff to steal your money and stuff. And now that is why, after what you have heard what Amit said and Pavanji is saying, this is why, I was shocked when people were making fun of the decision of the government when they decided to ban 59 Chinese apps. Now, that was the precise reason that they didn't want to give China a chance to conduct a mass-scale technical surveillance on Indian citizens and obviously bureaucrats and armed forces, because everybody is using smartphones. So they didn't want that Chinese espionage.
But that was not the reason what government stated for banning these apps, right? That wasn't the reason.
No, they said that it is prejudicial to the security and integrity of India. What does security mean when the Chinese are on your border?
But Jitin, it came at a time when we were seeing confrontations at LAC, right?
Yes.
Like that should not be the time when we should be looking at it. This should be a conversation every day. If your and my data is being compromised and I have no control over what these companies are extracting out of me, this deserves a conversation every day.
Sonam, you have to understand, companies like Facebook and Twitter will harvest a fixed amount of data every day. Suspicious, malicious apps which want to act as a snooping device or a malware does not steal data every day. I mean, if I was an app developer, I can give you a completely clean app which you can get it tested to any antivirus. In the times of need, I must just push an off-the-air update and then turn an additional code to turn your phone into a spy phone. So surveillance may not happen always. You have to understand there's a difference. So everything depends on the intent of the developer because he already has all the permissions. So if TikTok was to censor everything related to
of the developer, intent of the government. Yeah. I think these are two things that both you and Pavan and actually all panelists, I see them not in their heads now, that you agree on. I have Kazim back with me. Kazim, what does one do? Does one just remove all these apps from your phone completely? I mean, I can tell you I'm a journalist. I can't afford to get off Twitter, even if I want to.
Look, I think it's important for us to understand that we are living in a digital age where a lot of the information which we are putting out is also, in terms of driving a lot of services for users. So you can't really get off the internet ecosystem, and you sort of can't get isolated. At the same time, I think it's critical that we have a very strong privacy law in the country, and I think panelists are talking about it as well. That's the most important way forward. Legislating this is crucial in terms of making sure that you are collecting data with consent of the user understands where the data is going, what's happening to it, who's collecting it, are there any third parties collecting the data or not. At the same time, the Supreme Court passed a judgment in 2017 where you have a right to privacy now. All of us have a fundamental right, so do you. And any data collection must be through that judgment. It should be proportionate, necessary, as well as legitimate.
So third solution that has been offered on the panel today, we see there should be intent by these developers, there should be intent by the government, and there needs to be a law to actually keep a check on this. Amit, I just quickly want to give you the last word. What can you and I, what can my viewers do at this point? The slightest bit that is possible.
Yeah, first of all, we should not believe in this fact that there are only set of players or set of enemies those are taking your data. It could be from anywhere. There are different level of motivation, different level of intentions, what Jiten has just said and even Mr. Duggal was referring to. So we are actually fighting this battle against many such enemies.
Right.
One, those we know, we can block few apps, but that doesn't mean like the data is not going still outside. It may go through other such players. Those would be like launching it from different other countries, different other platforms. So what should we do? We should be little conscious when we are using such apps. We should not blindly start using any app, first of all. Second, the settings. We should know a little bit about the privacy settings. For example, whenever we are sharing anything on Facebook, we should not make it public so that any other person who is beyond Facebook can also access this information just by searching an hashtag. And you keep your friend list private, keep your post private. So all these things should be restricted to a great extent.
That's given me an idea for another episode on this. We should do one only on the settings required on the phone, on how you can actually prevent your data. But we'll come back to that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for educating us on this extremely important issue at this point. We'll have to leave it there because of time. That's all we have for you on FII today, but we continue to pursue this story till the very end, hopefully till you and I feel a little safe having all our information on our phones. Thanks for watching FII today. See you tomorrow, 11:30.